What's poppin', everybody? Today we're trying something a little new. I'm trying to utilize this time as a way to yes, do the Facebook Lives, but I also I'm trying to start a podcast. So this is kind of episode number 1. I'm gonna film it. I'm gonna see how this goes. If you don't like the format, if it's hard to hear me, just let me know and I can figure out a way around this. This is just me testing some stuff. So I'm gonna press play on the first podcast here, and then we're gonna get started on some unconventional training modalities. So 3, 2, 1, we're live. Welcome to podcast number 1. I'm also doing this at the same time as doing my live Facebook stream. So to everyone that's been jumping in and coming in the Facebook group, thank you very much. I appreciate the support. Figuring out this.
Jumping in.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. You know what? Oh, that's why. Okay, now we're on. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of like episode 1 / the Facebook group. Today we're going to talk about unconventional training methods. So you'll notice if your program just got updated that if you're working with me, you're going to notice that there's some stuff in the program that's a little bit different. I'm playing around with 2 different types of training methods that I really haven't done much before in the programs for everybody. These types of methods, the first one is called oscillatory training, and the second one is a lot more jump training. And I really want to talk about what those exactly mean, what my thought process behind those, and how you are going to get a good training response. And also how you could get kind of a not so good training response, because you could do them wrong. Okay, really. So let's start with jump training. So jump training is something that I really started implementing about 8 months ago in my own training. And I am a person who, I was never fast. I could never do anything that crazy impressive athletic wise. Maybe if I go to like a Good Life or a Movati or a commercial gym, I might be able to do stuff that impresses people. But as soon as I step foot into any type of athletic gym where there are, people that are playing sports competitively, are elite athletes, I am so mediocre, it's not even funny. Especially when it comes to jumping. When I first started my training, I never did any jumping, explosive power, nothing. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have people to do it with. So I just did tons of strength training. I did lots of long tempos, like I was doing 10-second eccentrics. I was doing 4-second tempos all the time. I started with a guy named Charles Poliquin, and he had his athletes do lots of tempo work. And it got me pretty damn strong when I was younger, like 18, relative to the people I was training with. However, I definitely hit 2 walls. The first wall was I definitely hit a wall with how much stronger I was getting. And I also hit another wall with how bored I was getting from my training. So by having both of these walls being hit, I've been able to recognize, okay, what are some other tools and some other strategies that we can implement once this wall gets met to further increase the demands and the success of your training. Now, I've done this with myself, obviously, and now I'm really starting to put a lot of this programming in for you, the people that I'm working with. Now, the thing that's important is I was just talking to my friend about this last night, I do think there's so much benefit to people doing long, two things really. The first thing, I think in the first, honestly, year of your training under a coach, and not just doing random workouts at a gym, you can benefit so much from simply every time you go into the gym week to week, just try and put like 1% weight on increase every single week, okay? And you'll notice with the programs that we really do a descending volume. So when you first started, it was kind of like sets of 10, and then we went to 8s and 6s and 4s, and the reason why I'm doing this on the Facebook Live is because most people that are working with me right now have been with me long enough that we're starting to hit kind of like these walls. And this is where if we just keep beating a dead horse and doing the exact same stuff over and over again, we're going to get similar results. So just to put that out there, you could train so simple. This is like the most cookie cutter template that will give you results is just do 10s for a while, do 8s for a while, do 6s for a while, do 4s for a while. And then as you start to get into like 4s and 3s, I'm referring to rep ranges here, you're going to start noticing that the intensity is quite a bit higher and you're not able to make as big of increases from week to week. Now, if you stay at 3s and 4s forever and you don't have any variability, you are going to exhaust your body you're going to exhaust your nervous system, you're going to exhaust your connective tissue, you're going to start running into injuries. This needs to be fluctuated. So you'll notice that if you've been working with me, now we've worked up to like 4s and 3s. We've gotten really strong. We've lifted weights that we didn't really ever, some people thought they never were going to lift. Same with me. I remember when squatting 315 was like, it was so hard. And now I'm squatting, I think I did a 345 for 10 or for 11, 350 for 10. So the modalities that I'm going to talk about here are stuff that I've used in my training that have really kind of like taken that to the next level once I hit a plateau when I started to get into 3s and 4s. Now I'm kind of jumping ahead here because most people in the gym haven't been consistent enough and haven't followed a specific program long enough to even entertain this conversation that I'm going to have. So do 10s, literally just do 10s and 8s and you'll get results. Now, we're finally at a place where we need to make changes. And this is where you're going to see in the programming, I'm using 2 different types of modalities. The one is oscillatory reps, and the second one is jump training. Now, let me talk a little bit about how you could do jump training wrong. I'm going to save oscillatory training at the end for 2 reasons. One, because I haven't really experimented with it that much. And 2, I think more people are probably going to mess up jump training. So myself, I used to think of plyometric training as something that was, 10 jump squats or a set of 20 plyometric lunges or, something that you did to get your heart rate up. And that really, sure, there's that application for that. But in terms of athletic development, speed, performance, connective tissue, tendon health, nervous system development, increasing your power output, increasing your strength, seeing that translate from including jump training to actually seeing that translate to being something that improves your performance, like if you're paying attention to how much weight you're lifting or the ease at which you lift the weight at. Jump training can really, really be supplemented in a way that's going to make a huge difference and will really take your training to the next level. So that's why we're doing it. Now, let's chat a little bit about how you can mess it up, because you can mess it up, okay? So, like I said, most people will see jump training and they'll do a set of 10 in a jump squat. What that does, especially for someone who's not really that trained in plyometrics, is they're going to be trying and hitting the jump squats, but each rep, the quality isn't going to be very high. So yes, you're doing multiple reps, but the quality isn't high. And what I'm looking for when I'm watching your jumps is I'm looking that you can repeat the same movement over and over and over again. What I don't want to see is, let's say it is the person who's doing a set of 10. What you'll see is reps 1, 2, and 3 are pretty decent, or maybe even like reps 2, 3, and 4 are pretty decent, but then there's a huge fall off in the last half of the set. I don't want to see that. What I also don't want to see is that you're jumping forwards or back if the goal is to stay in the same spot. Basically, one thing I look for with plyometrics is I'm looking for that you can repeat the same movement over and over and over again. That indicates to me that you have a good understanding of the movement, you have good coordination and muscular control, and you also understand the movement enough that you can just repeat it over and over and over again. If you're jumping around you're moving around a lot, that tells me the coordination is low. If your jump heights are a lot different from rep to rep, that tells me that you don't, the amount of power that you can actually put out in a jump is kind of random. You don't really know and understand intrinsically or internally what makes a good jump versus a poor jump. And what I want you to do with the jump training is I want you to really, really understand how to make every jump a high quality jump. Because if we look at a jump squat, for example, nothing is different between a jump squat and a back squat. However, the rate that you can spring in a jump squat is much, much higher simply due to the reduced load. So you're training your tissues in a different way. You're training your connective tissues in a different way. Your muscular tissues, your connective tissues, all of it is being trained in a very unique way that really is hard to replicate with weighted stuff. So that's why they're both in there. And when you see jumps or plyometrics in your program, if you're like me 2 years ago, you'll look at the programming and I'll have like 3 sets of 4 and you'll do the 4 reps and be like, oh, that was really easy. Now, what I would ask if you found that was really easy, I would ask you 2 things. I would say, what was the quality of your last set compared to your first? Okay? And that would be my first question. And most of the time, the quality decreases. The second thing I really want to know is this, now when you say this is easy, are they referring to the fact that their heart rate isn't really high? Because when we're talking about plyometric training in this regard, I'm not really talking about it from a heart rate standpoint. We have other exercises in the program that are going to get your heart rate up, improve your cardiovascular health, and do all the things that cardio is extremely good for. But that's in a different part of the program. That's when I program an interval training on a bike or a circuit or something. That's where the focus needs to be, getting your heart rate up. When it comes to plyometrics, I'm looking for just performance, just power, just speed. So what I want to see is if I have 4 reps there, I want every rep to be high quality. And you can, an obvious way, let's say we're talking about a box jump, an obvious way that people will look at progressing it is just being able to jump on a higher box. And that's for sure one way that you could look at improving your plyometric strength. Definitely. Okay, that's a good indicator. However, there are a couple other ways that we can look to improve. So one way is ground contact times. So the difference between doing a box jump and then stepping down, resetting, and doing it again is much different than a touch and go box jump. And typically how I program this is you'll see a dynamic seated box jump. So that's where you're sitting on a bench, you rock off and explode up. That's kind of like you're going from a dead stop to maximal power, maximal output. You're stepping down and then you're gonna reset and do it again. That is a different exposure than a touch and go box jump. A touch and go box jump, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for ground contact times and repeatability. So the seated box jump where you're just sitting on a bench and you stand up and jump, that's a very good indicator of like kind of max explosive effort. A touch and go box jump is really humbling for a lot of people because you have to basically jump on the box, jump off, jump on the box, jump off, and you have to do that immediately without delay. This is very eye-opening for people because you really get a sense of how the coordination is actually one of the limiting factors. You understand, like a lot of people don't know what to do with their arms. A lot of people don't know how to use their limbs or the rest of their body to actually help them stay in balance. They'll find they fall back, or they fall forward, or they rotate to one side. So I like, and in your programs, there's both of these types of jumps. You have a dynamic box jump where you're seated, and then you'll have a touch and go box jump. Both of these are doing totally different things, but they're skills that I think are extremely important. Even if you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, we don't really think of training to age well. But tendon strength, tendon resilience, being able to repeat a skill over and over again is something that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. And when we are 60 and 70, the people that trained that skill are going to be in a completely different arena than the people who didn't. I was talking about this to my friend yesterday, and he made a great point. He said, when you fall, you never fall slow. If you fall fast. And you always fall fast. So why would we train slow? Why would we only train in environments where we get to reset, we get to fix our footing, we get to explode from a really nice smooth surface? Why wouldn't we incorporate some drills where stuff is happening fast and we do have to adapt, and our body, the shape of our body, the orientation of the foot on the ground has to change really, really quickly, almost so quickly that you don't have conscious time to think about it, right? If I give you a touch and go box jump, which is, again, you're standing on the ground, there's a box in front of you, you jump on the box, and immediately, as soon as you get on, you jump back off, and immediately, as soon as you hit the ground, you jump back on. The time that you're spending on the ground and on the box is too short for you to think about how you're going to use your feet or how you're going to position your arms. It's too short, which is perfect, because even though people will see will have issues with coordination, that's actually good, because what happens is, if you're we use the example of slipping and falling on ice all the time, but if you slip and fall on ice, you don't have the time to think about where to position your foot or how to move your body so you don't fall. We don't have that. If you're sprinting, you don't have and you need to change direction quickly, you don't have the time to really make a conscious decision. So replicating this in training is super important, because we can call it in nature or in real life, we very often we're not even when we're walking, we're not consciously okay, I'm going to put my right foot here, I'm going to strike with the outside of my heel, I'm going to roll towards the inner side of the ball of my foot, and I'm going to leave by pushing forward and exiting the stride through my toe. We're not thinking about that, we're just walking. So these types of drills can really give a very good insight into what part of the foot you like to strike with. Maybe you always jump to the left. Maybe you have a hard time jumping backwards, but an easier time jumping forwards. It would not be uncommon to have somebody who can do a 35-inch box jump, but then can't do 10 on and offs really quickly, or 10 touch and go box jumps on a 2-inch block. That's very common, because the coordination you need to do that is a totally different skill than just being able to explode up. So you're going to see in the programs that I'm writing for everybody, there are a combination between static box jumps, max output power, and I have a comment in the notes, how high can you go? Because that's your metric. That's your metrics of success. How high can you go with the box jump? And other drills, it's not about how high you can go. In fact, I don't need you on a high box at all, because I just want you being able to repeat the movement and have minor changes in direction. We have forward on and offs or touch and goes. We have sideways touch and goes. We have single leg touch and goes, 2-leg touch and goes, 180 degree turning touch and goes. There's endless amounts of variation that we can do this from, and it's all programmed for you. Okay, that's the cool thing with plyometrics is I really do believe, regardless of your athletic status or what sport you play or whatever, I really do believe that every single person should be hopping regularly, should be jumping, should be landing, should be twisting, turning, running, sprinting. I think these are all qualities of human movement that we don't use a lot, but when you train them, you notice a huge difference in so many arenas. So it's so helpful. But if you don't have that foundation of moving weight consistently, the jumps are going to be really hard to train, because it's skill based, and you might just feel so awkward when you're jumping. So if you start with just jump training, I don't think you're going to get enough stimulus to actually get results from your training, like aesthetic results, physical results, weight loss, weight gain, whatever it is. So that's why I supplement it with the stuff that is going to drive fitness. Like I guarantee if everybody gets a stronger back squat, they're going to feel stronger. But if I just gave that person jumps from the beginning, I don't think you'd have the same benefit. So one more thing on box jumps, because when I'm talking about plyometrics, there's so many different ways that we can do this, but box jumps are typically like stuff that you can picture in your head as I'm explaining it verbally. With box jumps, one way we can progress a box jump is to just obviously jump on a higher box. The second way we can improve we can progress a box jump is how we land. So I want you to imagine you're standing on the ground and you're facing a box in front of you, and who cares how high it is? Let's say it's waist height, okay? So it's a pretty decent jump for a lot of people. And then you take off with two legs and you pull your knees really high, right, to jump onto the box. And then when you land on the box, you basically land in like the bottom of a squat because you had to pull your knees so high. So yes, you could technically measure that box. Let's say it was 30 inches to your waist. And then next week you could just elevate that box by 2 inches and now do a jump that's 2 inches higher and just try and pull your knees higher. That's one way that you can progress the box jump for sure. However, I think that it's more for like a safety reason. I don't think that's the only way to progress your box jumps. One really smart way that you can progress your box jump is focusing on how you land. So let's use the example of you're on the ground, you're looking in front of you and there's a box that's waist height. If you jump on the box and you pull your knees really high and you land in the bottom of a squat, good job, you did the box jump. Check it off, you did it. Now, however, next week or next time you get into your program, instead of trying to pull your knees really high and then jumping on a higher box, what you do is you leave the box the same height. You don't change the box. But this time, now when you jump, you're gonna try and land in a taller catch position. So week 1, you landed in the bottom of a squat because you had to pull your knees really high. And by week 4, you can jump up and land with straight legs. That is a very good way to increase the progression of your box jumps, because you're not increasing the risk factor because the box is the same height. Like if you fall on a 30-inch box, it's the same because it's 30 inches. But if you start trying to go, and I've done this where you increase your box jump height a lot, and then I've fallen on my back before, and it does not feel good. And looking back, it was dumb for a lot of reasons. I wasn't warmed up, and I was just like, it was dumb for a lot of reasons. But one thing that I could have done that I didn't know then was, instead of trying to pull my knees really high, I can just try and jump and land with like straight legs. And that's what I'll do with a lot of people when I train them in person is I will say, okay, cool, do this box jump, but I want you to try and land with straight legs. And as soon as they land with straight legs, then I know like, okay, now they have basically exceeded the height of this box, and now we need to increase the height. Okay, so there's 2 ways to progress your box jumps. Like I said, one of them's tucking your knees to your chest. The other one's just trying to land with straighter legs, right? And both of them will give you positive results. So that's the last little note on box jumps. I could talk about plyometrics for a long time, I'm realizing this, but I think I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna spend the last 5 minutes of this conversation discussing what oscillatory reps are. So oscillatory reps are a simple way of viewing an oscillatory movement. You can do this wherever you are, is if you take your hand and you make a fist, okay? And then you have your hand in a fist, and then you just open your fingers again, okay? And you just keep doing that. You make a fist, you open your fingers. You make a fist, and you open your hand. That would be like reps. So you can think of it as a back squat. When you make a fist, that's like going down into your back squat. When you extend your hand or open your fingers, that's like coming out of your back squat. Those are normal reps, right? That's the repetition that everybody knows about. Oscillatory reps are doing something like this. So start to make a fist, but don't make a full fist. Just go like 70% of a full fist. And then open your hand, but don't open your hand all the way. Only go to like 70% open. And now make a fist again. only 70%. And then open your hand, only 70%. That's an oscillatory rep. And now you can increase that by lots of ways. You could improve the speed. With doing it with your hand, it's kind of silly, but it's just an example you can see and visualize right now. So with a squat, what you might do is instead of going all the way down and all the way up, we can pick a range that you typically have maybe you're weaker through, maybe you're a little bit less coordinated through. For whatever reason, I've watched you squat in the videos that you send in, and I'm just like, okay, this person could improve the mid-range of their squat, or this person could improve the bottom range of their squat. And then that's where I'll put an oscillatory squat in your program, and I'm gonna tell you to oscillate, or you can think of oscillating as pulsed reps, controlled pulsed reps. So you're gonna come down, let's say it's the bottom of the squat. You're gonna come down to the bottom, you're gonna push up halfway, and then come back down again, and then push up halfway, and then come back down. These are pretty grueling. There's lots of ways that you can do oscillatory reps. I was experimenting doing 50 oscillatory reps at body weight, just because I didn't have any equipment available. That was very hard. First 25 were easy, last 25 were very challenging and burned my legs. But you can also do it in much less amount of reps. So I think in a lot of people's programs, I think I put like, you come down, you hit 5 to 10 oscillatory reps, depending on the individual that I was programming for. And then as soon as you're done those oscillatory reps, you do 3 full reps and then stand up and you're done the set. So what this is going to do is it's going to do a few things. First thing, it's going to get you familiar with a very specific range of the squat. Okay, so which is really cool, because you can just figure out what the muscles are doing and how you need to position your body throughout the squat. So that's the first thing. Second thing is it keeps your legs, in the case of the squat, it keeps your legs or the muscle group that you're working under tension longer, which is like basically the whole premise of bodybuilding. Okay, and you want to improve muscle mass, keep your muscles under tension longer. Okay, so it helps you understand the position of the movement. It helps you keep your muscles under tension longer. And this is anecdotal. And just research that or people that I've been listening to that have been using this technique, and I'm experimenting it with myself and my clients as well, is when we do that for let's say a 4-week block, what happens when we go back and we retest our 6 rep max in a squat? Does it improve? A lot of people that I've listened to that have used this method says it does, like significant improvements. One guy took his back squat from 365 to 415, I think, in 7 weeks, which is kind of unheard of. And the other impressive thing is that they're not using very heavy weights. So like that, let's say this individual could squat, 400 pounds for 1 rep, or 350 pounds for 1 rep, right? The amount of weight that he's using for these oscillatory reps is only like 115 pounds or 185 pounds. So it's the intensity that you're training at is less than 50%, but you're manipulating the rep scheme and the way you do the rep in such a way that you're basically figuring out how to make light weights heavier. And so there's that. You're getting more training volume. You're also working the connective tissues differently when you're bouncing. Okay. And when I say bouncing, it's not uncontrolled bouncing. It's a controlled pulse. And you're basically screwing up your nervous system and your brain, because it just wants to go down and up like a normal person. But instead, you're purposely sticking in this oscillatory range. And it's not a bounce, it's a controlled pulse. And what you're doing there is you're basically going start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And the tissues have to change direction in which that they're loaded. So I don't want to get too technical here, but they're loaded eccentrically, meaning they're loaded when you're lowering, and then they come to a dead stop, which is an isometric, and then you push up, and then they're loaded concentrically. So you're just getting this switch to happen way quicker. Like if you do a full rep squat, you're going to come down, let's say you come down for 4 seconds, then you're going to hit your pause, then you're going to go back up, right? So 1 rep, 1 full cycle of this eccentric lowering, pause, and then lift took you about, let's call it 7 seconds. Now with this oscillatory wrap,